Okay, my team sent me this video by Warren Buffett to react to. It's called, "I Got Rich When I Understood This." And immediately I was like, that sounds really familiar. And then I realized it was because I already reacted to a video with the exact same title from Jeff Bezos, which we will link up here if you want to check it out. But I was like, is this like a series? Is somebody like interviewing really rich, successful people about like, I got rich when I understood this? I don't know, but let's see what Warren has to say. Let's tap the like button and dive in.
In 1942, 80 years ago, I took 100.
Okay, we have to stop right there already, because like 80 years ago, oh my God, what longevity, you know, to be in this game, and how amazing that he's been doing this for so long. I'm super impressed.
$114.75 every penny I'd saved. And I bought 3 shares of City Service Preferred. And City Service is a pretty well-known name now and then.
Warren Buffett, the man with a net worth of over $100 billion, has a story to share.
So if I gave you $1,000 every single day, it would take you about 2 to 3 years to spend $1 million at a rate of $1,000 a day. And when you think about a billion, that is a lot more. That is 1,000 times a million. So at that point, you're talking about spending, $1 million a day, every day for 2.5 years, which I don't think you would do, but like, that's a big difference. And so when I think, you know, people hear about like billions of dollars, it's hard for them to conceptualize just how much money that is. And him starting with, you know, $114 and change, it's really quite amazing. And it's also a testament to how your money can grow and compound over time, because he's been doing this for a long time and he's been doing it well. So you can see how much wealth you can build over time when you're consistent with investing. It's pretty mind-blowing.
When I was 11, I picked stocks. I had the whole wrong idea. I was interested in watching stocks, and I thought stocks were things that went up and down, and I charted them. I read books on technical analysis. I read Edwards and Mickey. I think that was the classic then.
That's pretty awesome that he started getting into this when he was 11 years old. I remember in high school, I didn't get much financial education in school like most people. I remember in grade school, in math, sometimes we would do math problems, we were making change, you know, and in retrospect, I'm like, oh, okay, they're training us for a career in retail, you know. And then I remember in high school, there was one exercise that we did, I think it was in our history class, actually, where we took out a newspaper and we looked at different stocks and their prices, and we got to pick stocks and be like, okay, I want to buy this stock. And then we could see what happened with the price. And there was no, definitely no technical analysis or charting. It was just like you pick based on, I don't know, and you see what happens. And I think that that's the way a lot of people approach stock market investing, is it just feels like gambling. It's like, well, I like this company, you know, I like Starbucks, so I'll buy Starbucks stock, or I like Disney, so I'll buy Disney stock, but there's no real strategy behind it. And at least if he's looking at technical analysis, there's a chance he's building a strategy, but let's see where he goes with this.
Hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I read that whole thing over and over again. I read Garfield, Drew, I read everything. And I thought the first 8 years, I thought the important thing was to predict what a stock would do and predict the stock market. And then I read Ben Graham, you know, when I was 19 or 20. And I realized that I was doing it exactly the wrong way. But it didn't hurt that I had that background and everything. I rejiggered my mind when I read the book, The Intelligent Investor. And from that point, I never bought another stock. I bought businesses that happened to be publicly traded.
Okay, so that's the mindset shift. I'm not buying a stock that's just this thing, and I'm not trying to like buy things that I think will go up. I'm actually buying a business and thinking about it that way. Like I'm actually owning a small share of a business, which is basically what a stock is, right? So I get that mindset shift that he's going from, oh, it's just a ticker symbol on a chart doing a thing, to like, no, this is a real business. And where I imagine he might be going with it is like, and then wanting to understand that business. We'll see.
But I became an owner of a business, and I did not care whether a stock went up or down the next day or the next week or the next month or the next year. And I didn't have any idea what it would do. I didn't know what the stock market would do, but I knew businesses.
I think that's actually something that's really different when you're investing in stock versus something like gold or silver or cryptocurrency. Like you're investing in a business. And I really like that reframe. I mean, it's not even a reframe, it's the truth, but like really owning that I am a business owner. It's like when you own a share of Apple, like you own a little teeny tiny part of Apple. And I think that's actually a very empowering realization. So we like that. And yes, if you understand business and you own this small piece of a business, I can see how that would be helpful. And then in terms of like not caring if the stock went up or down, I guess what he's saying is he wants to believe in the businesses that he's having part ownership in. But I think like still like over time, you would want the value to go up or at least generate dividends or something. Like at some point you want to get some benefit from owning the business. So let's see.
To have success in the long run, you've got to love what you do. Buffett believes that finding your passion and sticking to it is the key to success. By doing what you love.
Okay, finding your passion and sticking to it. One thing I like, if he's reading books on technical analysis, like this is clearly his passion, like this is what this guy was meant to do. And this is something that like I really admire when people like find that special thing that's their thing and they go all in on it, like Weird Al Yankovic, right? Like who would have thought that it was this amazing gift to the world for somebody to take popular songs and make parodies of those songs, and that was going to be like his unique special gift that everyone would go nuts for, so clearly he has a passion and a gift for this. Now, do I think that you just follow your passion and you'll make money? I think you should follow your passion. I don't know if it'll always make money. Like I had a client who ran a gallery for 30 years and she, loved it. Like art is her passion. She was into it, totally following her passion, but it was never really profitable. And then she shifted her business model to, working with artists. And then she found something that was profitable, later on in life. So in a way, yes, but I think that you can, I think you can go pretty far with this. I remember Bob Proctor saying, like, you don't work for money, you work for satisfaction and you create value for money. And that sounds right to me. So I think that what you're doing for your work, hopefully it's something that you love and enjoy and it's your passion. And maybe there's other things you do that make money by creating value for people because, I know people that definitely don't live to work. They work to live. And if they can like invest that money and have it grow, then I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And then they're following their passions in other ways, like music and art and things. They're like, my passion is music, but I'm not interested in monetizing that. I would rather, just do my job and get paid and invest and then do my music on my time, however I want, and not worry about the money there. So I don't know. Like I agree. And
you'll have the motivation to keep going, even when things get tough.
I'm a bright guy who's terribly interested in what he does. So I've spent a lifetime doing it, and I've surrounded myself with people that bring out the best in me. And you don't need to be a genius in what I do. That's the good thing about it. If I went into physics or a whole lot of other subjects, I'd be an also-ran. But I am in a game that you don't need. You probably need 120 points of IQ, but 170 do any better than 120. It may do worse, probably do worse, but you don't really need brains. You need the right orientation. 90% of the people, I'm pulling a figure out of the air, but 90% of the people that buy stocks don't think of them the right way. They think about something that they hope goes up next week. And they think about the market as something they hope goes up. And if it's down, they feel worse. I feel better. And I hope it goes down when I buy it because I'll buy more. I try to keep my competitive spirit in a game where I can win. I do know this. When I want to do something, I always want to do it big. I put my whole net worth in City Service Preferred, March 11th, 1942. I have never had less than 80% of my money in American business. You can call them stocks, but I see them as American business.
Buffett's success speaks for itself. By investing in strong, stable businesses over the long term, he became one of the richest people in the world.
I've owned a piece of American business for at least 80% at all times. And, I don't want to own anything else.
I remember interviewing one of my friends about how she invests, and she says, I believe in the future of American business, and clearly he does too. So I think that having that belief, investing in mostly businesses in the U.S., that's obviously served him very well. He's also been investing over a period of time where American business has done well. Will that be the case forever? I don't know, but it's worked for him so far, so that's good.
I want to own a home and things my family wants and all that, but owning 5 homes doesn't mean anything to me because I can be happy in one home, and there's a certain amount of things that go wrong with everything. And if I got 2 homes, I know I've got more problems and I don't have more happiness.
That's a really good point there. When I used to tune into my financial freedom vision and think about what do I really want to create, I wanted a second home in Japan and Spain and Italy and Seattle and Las Vegas and all these places that I liked to travel. And I wanted my own private jet and a purple Ferrari, why not? And all these things. And then having owned over 35 properties all around the United States, I will tell you, in case you didn't already know, there is a maintenance energy to owning things like he's talking about. There's definite hassle factor, and now you have to manage those things and fix them, and even if you have property managers, you have to manage the managers, and it's a lot. And so when I kind of revisited that picture of keeping in mind the fulfillment curve, which Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez talk about, that relationship between money and happiness, the correlation between money and happiness and fulfillment. And on the fulfillment curve, you can see that in the beginning, more money does correlate with more happiness or fulfillment, which makes sense. If you go from not being able to pay your bills and now you're able to pay your bills, that's gonna feel pretty good and fulfilling, right? And then you're able to buy some comforts and luxuries, of course. And then you reach this point where more money actually correlates with less happiness and fulfillment. And so you could even call that overconsumption, where now the hassle factor is outweighing the benefit. And so the peak of the fulfillment curve is enough and then some. And for Warren, just having his same house that he's had for decades, that's all he feels like he needs. But that's going to be different for everybody. For me, the house that I'm in, the house that I'm filming this video in right now, I could stay here forever. It's amazing. Will I? I don't know. It depends. I totally could. And I also think it would be really cool to get a cabin by the Russian River, because it would be really neat to take our kids back to that same place, every summer, maybe every fall, and have it be that family kind of second home gathering, summer vacation, create those memories. I think that could be really cool, and it could serve as a vacation rental when we're not there. And that feels in alignment to me. And so I don't need to own second homes everywhere, but maybe that one would be really cool. That would fall in the enough and then some category for me. So I think you have to decide what that is for you, but realize that owning more stuff or having more money isn't always the thing that's going to make you happy. I think it's good to keep that in mind.
I would have to honestly say that that what makes me happiest is what I'm doing. I enjoy two things about it. One, I know I'll win over time. That doesn't mean I'll beat everybody else or anything like that, but I'm in a game that's very, very, very easy if you have the right lessons in your mind about what you're buying. I'm not buying stocks. I'm buying pieces of overwhelmingly American business. And I'm happy when that's
Why do they keep showing footage of Bradley Cooper? I mean, he's great, but like, I think that's kind of funny.
when I'm doing it. I'm happy when stocks are going down. I'm happier when stocks are going down because I can buy more of them with the same amount of money. I'd be happy if I was a farmer. I'd want farmland to go down so I could buy more acreage.
You know, it makes sense. You know, stock market goes down and it's like it's on sale. You're like, yay, go buy more. You know, so if you're doing something like dollar cost averaging into the market, then yeah, you pick stuff up at a discount and it's a good thing. It's a different way to look at it. And you know, clearly he's happy. You know, he's doing what he loves. It's awesome. You got to appreciate that.
You know, if I was, I mean, it just makes sense. And I'll tell you the second thing I really like. I like being trusted by people. And, you know, I would rather do what I do with partners than do it sitting in a room myself, even though I might make more money that way. I need to know that I think that Berkshire Hathaway is going to be worth more money someday down the road. Not tomorrow. I want it to go down if I'm buying something. You know, and I would say this, the world has changed a lot since that report was written. But the world changed a lot in 2000, 2 years ago. Let's pretend there is no stock market. Let's say I had to buy these privately, like you buy a farm privately, like you buy an apartment house privately. They're investments. So you're looking to say, what can I do with money I've saved to put it away so I feel good about getting it back later under any circumstances?
Yeah, that makes sense. So first of all, he didn't say this exactly, but what it made me think of is he's designed his business to fit the life that he wants. So he doesn't want to be like in a room by himself with, you know, all these computer screens with stock charts. Like he wants to be part of a team and participatory and engaging. And I like that. So he's built his business up to suit that. And he said, maybe I'm not even making as much money that way. Sometimes it's not all about the money, you know? It feels good to be able to provide a livelihood for somebody else on the team. It feels good to delegate stuff that maybe you're not as good at or don't like as much. It feels good to be part of a winning team as opposed to doing something by yourself all the time. I mean, when you're a business owner, when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes that can be a pretty lonely journey. You're just like on your own trying to figure out your thing, and being part of a team can be really great. The other thing he said was, you know, buying things that can give you returns in the long term. I think of it as the story of the goose that laid the golden eggs. So you're growing a big golden goose, and eventually you can start enjoying the golden eggs, you know, if it gets to that point. And ideally, you want to grow a big enough golden goose that you could completely live off the golden eggs if you wanted to.
Under any circumstances, but not necessarily on a given moment. But if I have a farm, it's going to take me a while. But people would be so much better if they actually didn't have a stock market in terms of buying businesses. But you know, and when you're buying businesses, don't call them stocks. When you're buying businesses, when you're buying apartment houses, sometimes when you're buying raw land, you know, all kinds of things. There's times when you get a chance to act and do something really intelligent. It may happen once every 10 years, once every 20 years. Depends on what field you're in, where you live, what you know, all of that. But most of the important things.
Okay, if you're waiting for that like once in a decade opportunity and you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you want to be able to retire, that's going to be frustrating, right? It's like, okay, let's say I'm 55 right now. I want to be able to retire by the time I'm 65. I don't really have, I'm not really on track with, my investments. Well, yeah, I'm going to want to invest in things that go up, right? I mean, that's great that he started when he was 11, but we can't all start when we're magically go back in time, right? So I think it's good that he's taken the long view, and I think there's a lot of benefit that you can take from that. But I don't think you have to just wait for those once in a decade opportunities to invest, because some of us don't have decades before we're going to need the money. So I just want to call that or point that out here, because when you're talking about the reality of people being able to retire and stop working if they want to, or if they had to, let's say you have some kind of medical problem or accident and you can't run your business anymore and you need your investments to be able to take care of you. You want that to be a possibility, right? So yes, we want to invest for the long term. Yes. But do we I don't care if it grows in the next 20 years. No, I care. I'm going to care, but that's me from my perspective as a 48-year-old. If I was 11, then that would be a different thing.
There's a lot of foundational work. United States economy, and it's very easy to look at the statistics on it. I mean, more people, a greater percentage of the American population is wealthy now, or having more income now than they've ever had. And if you look at whether Bank of America can give you their average deposit, I mean, you just look at the wealth that's out there, and that doesn't mean everybody's wealthy, but it does mean relative to any other period of time, people have more money now. They get mortgages at lower rates than they've ever gotten. So if they want to buy an apartment, where the bottom 2% in terms of income in the United States, the bottom 5%, and for sure the top 1%, all live better than John D. Rockefeller was living when I was 6 years old. John D. Rockefeller was the richest man in the world. And today, you can get better medicine, better education, better entertainment, better transportation. You can do everything better than he could.
That's a really good point, and I've never heard anybody put it quite like that. Sometimes I'll often say at my workshops and events, would you trade places with somebody else in the world? Trade financial lives. Imagine you had a big, a big bowl full of purple golf balls. Would you put the purple golf ball that represents your financial situation into that bowl and pick another one at random and trade places with somebody else in the world? Maybe you could end up with Warren Buffett's financial situation, which would be amazing, but the odds, statistically, you'd probably end up living in a mud hut in Tanzania, which would not be so great. And then if you take time into the equation, would you trade places with a king or a queen if it was 200 or 300 years ago? I mean, that's the most lavish possible lifestyle, right? You got the servants and the feasts and all the things, but you didn't have internet or running water or penicillin or all of these amazing things that we have today. So I would add to what he's saying that if you're watching this video, in a lot of ways, you live better than a king or queen just a couple hundred years ago. And that's pretty amazing. And I think it can help you feel more prosperous in the moment. And when you feel more prosperous, you automatically attract more money and prosperity to you. So that's a really good prosperity practice of cultivating the feelings, emotionalizing it, cultivate that emotional blueprint of prosperity by realizing how abundant your life really is, and then expanding it even more from there.
You can, it's astounding. That's in my lifetime. That if you wanted to watch a football game, he still had to go there. And I can sit there with this big screen, and they keep showing me the replay, and explaining to me what happened and everything. And maybe everybody doesn't have a screen as big as mine, but damn near everybody has a screen or an iPhone or a computer or access to one, and they have access. I mean, when I was born, the dentist didn't use Novocaine. There's no country that's done what our country's done. If you go back 3 of my lifetimes, are looking at less than 1% of the world's population, closer to half of 1%. Half of 1% of the people in the world are sitting in this land. They don't work harder than people in all the rest of the world. I mean, in terms of hours of unpleasant labor, everybody's got hours of unpleasant labor in those days practically. They don't come laden with gold and, they are half of 1%. And they work the same hours, they got the same IQs. They may be a little self-selected in terms of enterprise, in terms of going across oceans and things. And fast forward a couple of lifetimes, and they've got 20% plus of all the bounty in the world. I mean, that is something that has worked like nothing.
Let's just gloss over, some of the things that made that possible and some of the extreme privilege that some of us have received from, systems of oppression that kept other people from being able to have those same opportunities. But I get what he's saying. And I think that, yes, we do have so many opportunities, and the life now is really incredible within just his lifetime alone, and then a couple lifetimes totally.
Just imagine that. If you'd gone to anybody, Constitutional Congress, in 1789, if you go to any one of the representatives there, and you said, I want to tell you what this place is going to look like, in 3 more of your lifetimes, your great-great-grandchildren, are going to be flying in the skies, they're going to be watching sports all over the world, they're going to be entertained, their medicine. They'd have hauled you off to a lunatic society. When Thomas Edison did all the things he did, he made some money, but we better, we're using it.
Yeah.
It belongs to us, and it doesn't, if you take what an hour of labor delivered to you 100 years ago, and what an hour of labor delivers to you now for you and your family, it's unbelievable.
That it is pretty extraordinary. So I like that he talked about it. This video is titled, I Got Rich When I Understood This. What was it? What was it that he understood that got him rich? I feel like it didn't really deliver on the promise or title of the video. Like the big takeaway that I heard from him was that he stopped thinking about stocks as like it's a stock and I hope it goes up. And he started thinking about, hey, I'm a business owner and I'm invested in this business long term, and I believe in the long-term power of American business. So, okay, was that the thing that he understood that allowed him to get rich? I guess that was, because it did, right? And then he's also talking about like how much more amazing our lives are today with, electricity and airplanes and big screen TVs that show the football game and all of that. And that's true. And so that's cool. I actually appreciate this video. I like this more than the Jeff Bezos one because it got me present to how, how prosperous I feel with the life that we have with everything that's been created. So I like this. I feel uplifted by this video, and I hope you enjoyed this too. So if you thought this was interesting, tap the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if there's any other videos you want me to react to, let me know in the comments and I'll check them out.